Hello, my friends. It's time to read, for me to read, which also means it's time for me to read for you. Today, we continue to read the book by Sam Harris, Waking Up, A Guide to Spirituality Without Religion. We start in the next section, as you can see here, Religion, East and West. We are often encouraged to believe that all religions are the same. All teach the same ethical principles. All urge their followers to contemplate the same divine reality. All are equally wise, compassionate, and true within their sphere, or equally divisive and false, depending on one's view. No serious adherents of any faith can believe these things, because most religions make claims about a reality that are mutually incompatible. Exceptions to this rule exist, but they provide little relief from what is essentially a zero-sum contest of all against all. The polytheism of Hinduism allows it to digest parts of many other faiths. If Christians insist that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, for instance, Hindus can make him yet another avatar of Vishnu without losing any sleep. But this spirit of inclusiveness points in one direction only, and even it has its limits. Hindus are committed to specific metaphysical ideas, the law of karma and rebirth, a multiplicity of gods that almost every other major religion decries. It is impossible for any faith, no matter how realistic, to fully honor the truth claims of another. Devout Jews, Christians, and Muslims believe that theirs is the one true and complete revelation, because that's what their holy books say of themselves. Only secularists and New Age dabblers can mistake the modern tactic of interfaith dialogue for underlying unity of all religions. I have long argued that the confusion about the unity of religions is an artifact of language. Religion is a term like sports. Some sports are peaceful but spectacularly dangerous. Free solo rock climbing. Some are safer but synonymous with violence. Mixed martial arts. And some entail little more risk of injury than standing in the shower, bowling in the shower. To speak of sports as a generic activity makes it impossible to discuss what athletes actually do or the physical attributes required to do it. What do all sports have in common apart from breathing? Not much. The term religion is hardly more useful. The same could be said of spirituality. The esoteric doctrines found within every religious tradition are not all derived from the same insights. Nor are they equally empirical, logical, parsimonious, or wise. They don't always point to the same underlying reality, and when they do, they don't do it equally well. Nor are all these teachings equally suited for export beyond the cultures that first conceived them. Making distinctions of this kind, however, is deeply unfashionable in intellectual circles. In my experience, people do not want to hear that Islam supports violence in a way that Jainism doesn't, or that Buddhism offers a truly sophisticated empirical approach to understanding the human mind, whereas Christianity presents almost perfect impediment to such understanding. In many circles, to make invidious comparisons of this kind is to stand convicted of bigotry. In one sense, all religions and spiritual practices must address the same reality, because people of all faiths have glimpsed many of the same truths, and a view of a consciousness and the cosmos that is available to the human mind can, in principle, be appreciated by anyone. It is not surprising, therefore, that the individual Jews, Christians, Muslims, and Buddhists have given voice to some of the same insights and intuitions. This merely indicates that the human cognition and emotion run deeper than religion. But we knew that, didn't we? It does not suggest that all religions understand our spiritual possibilities equally well. One way of missing this point is to declare that all spiritual teachings are inflections of the same perennial philosophy. The writer Aldous Huxley brought this idea into prominence by publishing an anthology by that title. Here is how he justified the idea. Philosophia perennis. The phrase was coined by Leibniz. But the thing, the metaphysic, that recognizes a divine reality substantial to the world of things and the lives and the minds. The psychology that finds in the soul something similar to, or even identical with, divine reality. The ethic that places man's final end in the knowledge of the eminent and the transcendent ground of all being. The thing is immemorial and universal. Rudiments of the perennial philosophy may be found among the traditionary law of primitive people. In every region of the world, and in its fully developed form, it has a place in every one of the higher religions. A version of this highest common factor in all preceding and subsequent theologies was first committed to writing more than 25 centuries ago. And since that time, the inexhaustible theme has been treated again and again from the standpoint of every religious tradition and in all the principal languages of Asia and Europe. Although Huxley was being reasonably cautious in his wording, this notion of a highest common factor uniting all religions begins to break apart the moment one presses for details. For instance, the Abrahamic religions are incorrigibly dualist and faith-based. In Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the human soul is conceived as genuinely separate from the divine reality of God. The appropriate attitude for a creature that finds itself in this circumstance is some combination of terror, shame, and awe. In the best case, notions of God's love and grace provide some relief. But the central message of these faiths is that each of us is separate from and in relationship to a divine authority who will punish anyone who harbors the slightest doubt about his supremacy. The Eastern tradition presents a very different picture of reality, and its highest teachings, found within the various schools of Buddhism and the nominally Hindu tradition of Advaita Vedanta, explicitly transcend dualism. By their lies, consciousness itself is identical to the very reality that one might otherwise mistake for God. While these teachings make metaphysical claims that any serious student of science should find incredible, they center on a range of experiences that the doctrines of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam rule out of bounds. Of course, it is true that the specific Jewish, Christian, and Muslim mystics have had experience similar to those that motivate Buddhism and Advaita. But these contemplative insights are not exemplary of their faith. Rather, they are anomalies that Western mystics have always struggled to understand and to honor, often at a considerable personal risk. Given their proper weight, these experiences produce heterodoxies for which Jews, Christians, and Muslims have been regularly exiled or killed. Like Huxley, anyone determined to find a happy synthesis among spiritual traditions will notice that the Christian mystic Mr. Eckhart, around 1260 to 1327, often sounded very much like a Buddhist. Quote, "The knower and the known are one. Simple people imagine that they should see God, as if he stood there and they here. This is not so. God and I, we are one in knowledge." But he also sounded like a man bound to be excommunicated by his church, as he was. Had Eckhart lived a little longer, it seems certain that he would have been dragged into the street and burned alive for these expensive ideas. That is a telling difference between Christianity and Buddhism. In the same way, it is misleading to hold up the Sufi mystic Al-Halaji around 858 to 922 as a representative of Islam. He was a Muslim. Let's see. Yes, but he suffered the most grisly death imaginable at the hands of his co-religionists for presuming to be one with God. Both Eckhart and Al-Halaji give voice to an experience of self-transcendence that any human being can, in principle, enjoy. However, their views were not consistent with the central teachings of their faith. The Indian tradition is comparatively free of problems of this kind, although the teachings of Buddhism and Advaita are embedded in more or less conventional religions. They contain empirical insights about the nature of consciousness that do not depend upon faith. One can practice most techniques of Buddhist meditation or the method of self-inquiry of Advaita and experience the advertised changes in one's consciousness without ever believing in the law of karma or in the miracles attributed to Indian mystics. To get started as a Christian, however, one must first accept a dozen implausible things about the life of Jesus and the origins of the Bible. And the same can be said minus a few unimportant details about Judaism and Islam. If one should happen to discover that the sense of being an individual soul is an illusion, one will be guilty of a blasphemy everywhere west of the Indus. There is no question that many religious disciplines can produce interesting experiences in suitable minds. It should be clear, however, that engaging a faith-based and probably delusional practice, whatever its effects, isn't the same as investigating the nature of one's mind absent any doctrinal assumptions. Statements of this kind may seem starkly antagonistic toward Abrahamic religion, but they are nevertheless true. One can speak about Buddhism shorn of its miracles and irrational assumptions. The same cannot be said of Christianity or Islam. Okay, let's stop here. This is one full section. I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed, please forward and subscribe to my channel. I'm very happy to read these things. I'm a avid reader, so I'm happy to read these things for you. But please subscribe so that I have more enthusiasm to read more. Thank you.